Most new businesses start with a great idea, but finding that early stage funding to turn the idea into a flourishing business can be challenging. Well, the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan has created a program that is the perfect blend between theoretical education and action-based learning, and it helps launch students and entrepreneurs toward success. Bringing us the story is Mercedes Mejia.
Since 1999, a program at the Samuel Zell and Robert H. Lurie Institute for Entrepreneurial Studies has given students a chance to have a real-world impact on startup businesses.
We are here at the Ross School of Business on University of Michigan's Central Campus. And for people that aren't familiar with the Wolverine Venture Fund, can you explain what it is?
The Wolverine Venture Fund is modeled after real venture funds outside of the academic environment. It was the first such fund in the country or anywhere in the world, as far as I'm aware, to actually invest real money in real startup companies and a fund supervised and essentially managed under guidance by students. And what they do is they look at potential deals to invest in. They interview the management, they assess the markets, they look at the technology, and just the same way any practicing venture fund would do. And then the key is they actually invest real money.
Tell me about that. How was that, knowing that you were working with real funds, in real businesses?
It made us concentrate and work a lot harder than if it was just playing with Monopoly money.
Carrie, what was your experience like?
Well, you just had to be really careful. Every time you're going through looking at a company, this is the real thing, so you couldn't really leave any stone unturned, if you will. So.
Do you feel like you had direction with your advisors?
We had a really amazing advisory board of 10 members of real venture capitalists in the community. And even though this was a classroom learning experience, they would not hesitate to overly correct us if we were headed down the wrong path. And it was just amazing to work with such a caliber. It wasn't so much of a professor correcting you as it was someone in the industry really putting you on the right course.
And yet at the same time, they allowed us to make mistakes too. And there were times when investments were made against their better judgment, but they stepped out of the way and let us do what we thought was the best decision at the time.
How much money are you guys actually working with, or the funds?
Initially, in the beginning of the year, we started off as a $3.5 million fund. And luckily, it just so happened that we had 2 acquisitions this year, 2 sales of portfolio companies, which increased our fund size to $5.5 million. So it's a decent size. It's still considered a small fund in over terms of VC terms. But for students to be playing around with $5 million, that's significant, and it can really make an impact to a startup company.
Tom, how much input do students have in making those final decisions?
One of the unique things about the fund is they basically probably have 95% of the final call here. We've never invested in any company that the students didn't want to, and I can only think of maybe one occurrence where the advisory board and the student board got into a disagreement over investment. But overwhelmingly, they make the call.
With students making the call for over a dozen companies in the portfolio, Professor Kinnear has seen some of their early investments pay off.
You've had some successes.
Yes, well, thank you for asking. We've had 4 exits, that's the jargon for the company was sold or acquired or had initial public offering. 2 of them I would consider home runs, and 2 were very nice. The 2 home runs were Interlace, which is the LASIK eye surgery company, and one we just consummated, which is Handy Lab, and that was just acquired by Becton Dickinson for almost $300 million.
HandyLab founder Tom Porter now mentors MBA students, drawing on his many years of experience in venture capital investing.
I understand you started a high-tech company called HandyLab. How important is the seed money in the startup company?
Startup capital for a high-risk technology company is really important, but it's very difficult to find. Investors willing to take the risk and who can contribute to the growth of the company. So finding the Wolverine Fund was critical for us when we started HandyLab.
I suspect a program like this helps Michigan's rising entrepreneurs. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Certainly. 8 of our active current investments are of companies that are Michigan-based. Great example of that is NanoBio, a company which now has raised over $90 million. We were there when they first needed money, along with a few other funds here, to get them over the hump.
How has the experience been working with students at the Wolverine Venture Fund?
What I noted is that the Wolverine Fund is very much like a professional venture fund. The students conduct very thorough due diligence. They ask tough questions. Once they invest, they monitor their investment, and they even, like you would see with a traditional venture fund, they even try and provide support for their portfolio companies where they can.
It's wonderful for us because many of these young people will soon be out there doing work and being both our colleagues and maybe our competitors. But more importantly, it really serves the mission of developing a small business community in the state of Michigan, which is very important for the future of the economy.
During his time as CEO of Handy Lab, Jeff Williams met regularly with student Wolverine Fund investors.
The Wolverine Venture Fund has had incredible performance. If you look at the return on investment, it's a bunch of younger people that are running this fund. You would think that investment managers with 40 or 50 years experience would do better than a student-led fund, but they've actually had really remarkable return on investment. So I think it's been a success.
How did this program change your outlook on business?
It really pushed me to rethink my career, in which I ended up ultimately quitting Intel and continuing the program full-time to focus on the Wolverine Fund and the eventual creation of companies.
And I understand, Jason and Michael, you all are now working together.
That's correct. We're starting a venture capital firm here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's called Resonant Venture Partners. There's a great amount of talent here, very talented managers, engineers, and capital providers.
That will be the design assessment.
In many ways, I don't feel like they're students because they're approaching it like an investment and like a professional investor would.
Did you learn anything from them as students?
I learned that I would have loved to have had the chance that they had during my time in college to really get this real-life experience. It would have been very beneficial. It's really a unique program.
Any advisor or teacher always has that magic moment where the light bulbs go on in a student. The learning depth goes to levels that are impossible in any other method. The other part of it is, of course, watching them all celebrate when we have a successful investment. It's just part of the philosophy of how do you really learn. You learn by the good theory, and then you learn by practice. And this is, I guess, the ultimate poster child for good practice.